Good day, my friends. Here I have the story of a die-hard atheist who died, went to hell, but was rescued by Jesus. Dr. Howard Stone, head of the art department of North Kentucky University, was an ardent atheist. He couldn't stand Christians. One of the secretaries was a committed Baptist. He ridiculed her for her faith. Then a nun enrolled for his lectures. It was like a red flag to a bull. He was deliberately rude to her, most likely wanting her to disappear. Instead of disappearing, she made him her prayer project, to pray for his conversion. That required faith. Dr. Storm was a bit of a nasty person. He says he thought people who were religious were kidding themselves. I viewed them with contempt. I had no faith, no hope, reliance on anyone else but myself. It was survival of the fittest. In 1985, he was leading an excursion to Paris when he suffered a ruptured duodenum intestine. A surgeon was needed immediately, but none could be found. 9 hours later, he was still waiting in agony and felt that he could take no more. He turned to his wife, kissed her goodbye, and gave up the struggle. He was fully certain that it would be lights out. He says, I went unconscious and I didn't know how long it lasted. I felt real strange. So I opened my eyes, and to my surprise, I was standing up next to my bed, looking down on my body in the bed. I tried to communicate with my wife, but she was ignoring me. I tried to communicate with another man in the room, but he ignored me. Then I heard people outside the room calling my name in English. I went over to the doorway and I asked if they had come to take me to surgery. And they said, hurry up, we've been waiting for you for a long time. These are demons. I had bad feelings about them, but I went with them. As I journeyed with them, this group of people took me beyond the room down a hallway. I was aware that the hallway had no features. It just kept getting darker and darker. Now we were in complete darkness. Over this very long period of time, I said, I'm not going with you any further. Then they were almost there. They started pushing and shoving me, and I fought with them. And there were many of them. A wild orgy of frenzied taunting, screaming, and hitting ensued. They had very sharp fingernails, and my impression was that they also had sharp teeth. He describes how they tore at his flesh and tore him apart, but he could also feel his insides being torn out. But then he says, I heard a voice say, pray to God. But I thought, I don't believe in God. That's a stupid idea. I heard it a second time and a third time. And I was thinking, what did I say when I was a child? He was 38 at this time, but he thought back to his childhood to remember his childhood prayers. He was struggling to find any religious words to say at all. He could remember a few words and some religious phrases, but because he was just mentioning God, these beings got very, very angry with him, and they started to scream and howl. But he noticed that the more he mentioned God, the more they went away from him. He thought about his childhood at Sunday school. He remembered singing, Jesus Loves Me, and the memory was so simple and innocent and pure, believing in something good and that Jesus cared about him. And this was so powerful. I didn't believe in him, but I wanted to believe in him. I wanted to believe as I did as a child. So as an act of desperation, I called out into the darkness, Jesus, please save me. Suddenly there was a pinprick of light in the distance, and it grew and came towards him, and it was Jesus. He said he was very intelligent, very strong, and I knew that he was very good. And most importantly, I knew that he had loved me more than any concept that I had ever had of what love was. If I had taken all my experiences of love throughout my lifetime and put them into that single moment, it would have not exceeded that. And I knew that he knew absolutely everything about me. He knew my thoughts. He knew my every moment of my life, even the things I didn't remember myself. And he held me, and I cried out of joy, and he began to carry me directly straight up. We started leaving that place. Fairly soon we were entering into a world full of light, and the goodness and the love and the holiness were permeating through me. And I thought to myself, I'm a piece of garbage. They've made a terrible mistake because I don't belong here. I was so ashamed. With that, we stopped our movement, and he spoke to me for the first time, and he said, you do belong here, and we don't make mistakes. He was then handed over to 3 angels who did a life review, and he saw all the times in his life when he had been bitter and angry, resentful, and how he had harmed other people. He felt the pain that he had inflicted upon them. And then he was told that it was not his time to die and that he could come back and do better. He came back. He woke up in the bed. A surgeon had arrived and saved his life through an operation. Following Dr. Storm's recovery, he retired from his well-paid position as an art professor and became a Methodist minister. But while he became a Methodist minister, he has a very Catholic understanding of the afterlife, especially purgatory. After all, he said that he had been there. That is when he ended up, not at first because he had gone to hell, but where he'd ended up and had his life review. And he was given a second chance by God. Our God is so merciful. So merciful. God bless, my friend.